The morning air carried that crisp September bite as I stood in the custom leather shop on Stephen Avenue in downtown Calgary. Gerald, the craftsman who'd made saddles for my family for 3 generations, was putting the final touches on a hand-tooled leather journal I'd commissioned for my nephew Derek's 10th wedding anniversary. Each page had been designed with care. Photographs of Derek and Amanda's decade together, from their wedding at the ranch to the birth of their daughter Olivia, now 8 years old. The cover bore the Lawson family brand, the same mark my grandfather registered in 1923 when he first drove cattle across the Alberta foothills. "Mr. Lawson, I think you'll be pleased with the gilded edging." Gerald adjusted his glasses as he pointed to the gold leaf detail along the spine. "This is the finest work I've done in 40 years. Your nephew and his wife will treasure it." I ran my fingers across the supple leather, feeling the weight of family history in my hands. $4,200 for a gift, but Derek deserved it. After my brother Thomas died in that highway accident 15 years ago, I'd raised Derek as my own son. He was 23 then, lost and grieving. Now he was 38, my right hand at Lawson Prairie Holdings, the cattle and grain operation I'd built into one of the largest private agricultural enterprises in Western Canada. My phone buzzed with an email notification as I signed the receipt. I glanced at it absently, expecting the usual Saturday morning messages about grain shipments or veterinary reports for the cattle operation. Instead, the subject line made my hand freeze above the counter. Your nephew's anniversary. Please read before Saturday. The sender was listed as a friend who cares. No name, no recognizable email address, just a Proton Mail account that could have been created 5 minutes ago. My chest tightened as I opened the message. "Mr. Lawson, I'm risking everything to send this. Please open the attached documents before attending the party on Saturday. Your family is not what you believe. Derek and Amanda have been planning something for months. Someone needed to warn you. Do not let them know you've seen this." 3 PDF files were attached. My fingers trembled slightly as I clicked the first one. It was a scanned legal document from Henderson and Associates, an elder law firm in Edmonton I'd never heard of. The header read, "Preliminary Capacity Assessment Application. Richard Thomas Lawson. Capacity Assessment." My name on a legal document I'd never authorized, never even known existed. "Sir, are you feeling all right? You've gone quite pale." Gerald's concerned voice seemed to come from very far away. "Family emergency. I need to take this." The lie came automatically, a reflex built from decades of maintaining composure in difficult business situations. I gathered the gift box under my arm and walked quickly toward my truck in the parkade. Inside the cab, I opened the second PDF with shaking hands. It was an email chain between Derek and someone named Dr. Marlene Fessenden. The subject line read, "Timeline for Cognitive Evaluation." Derek's words appeared on my phone screen. "Dr. Fessenden, we appreciate your willingness to work with our timeline. My uncle has shown increasing signs of cognitive decline over the past 18 months. Confusion about business decisions. Repeating himself in meetings. Forgetting important dates. Amanda and I are concerned about his capacity to manage the family holdings. We need the evaluation completed before he makes any more questionable decisions about the ranch's future. The assessment should be scheduled for September 15th, 3 days after the anniversary party." Dr. Fessenden's response was clinical. "I understand the family's concerns. Based on what you've described, I can provide a thorough evaluation that will support the necessary legal proceedings. My fee structure for these sensitive family matters is outlined in the attached document. I've handled similar situations with discretion." September 15th. 3 days after Derek's anniversary party, the celebration I'd been planning for months, the event where I'd intended to announce my retirement and formally transfer majority ownership of Lawson Prairie Holdings to my nephew. The third PDF was a financial analysis prepared by Amanda. Page after page of spreadsheets detailing the ranch's assets, the grain elevator we'd built in High River, the equipment fleet, the real estate holdings across 3 counties, and projected liquidation values if the operation was sold. At the bottom of the final page, in Amanda's handwriting, was a note. "Conservative estimate, $47 M liquid after property sales." enough to cover all debts and relocate. Derek agrees the timing is right. Uncle Richard won't know what's happening until it's done. I sat in my truck for 31 minutes, reading and rereading the documents. Shoppers walked past on the sunny Calgary street, carrying bags from boutiques and cafes, living normal lives unaware that the foundations of my world had just crumbled. My phone showed 7 missed calls from Derek. I couldn't bring myself to answer. What would I say? What could I possibly ask that wouldn't reveal I knew about their plan? Instead, I started the engine and drove. Not west toward the ranch near Okotoks, but east on the Trans-Canada toward Banff. The mountains had always been where I went to think, ever since Catherine passed 12 years ago. The familiar route along the Bow River provided no comfort today. The water ran cold and clear beneath an overcast sky, indifferent to the betrayal burning in my chest. I checked into the Fairmont Banff Springs without luggage, paying cash for a room overlooking the valley. The clerk didn't ask questions when I requested complete privacy. Room 847 was elegant and quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of Sulphur Mountain, but I pulled the curtains closed immediately. I needed darkness to think, to plan, to understand how the nephew I'd raised had become someone I didn't recognize. I forwarded the anonymous email to my laptop and printed all 3 PDFs at the hotel business center. Then I sat at the desk with a legal pad and began making notes, applying the same methodical analysis I'd used for 40 years in agricultural business. Question 1. Who sent this warning? Who had access to these documents and cared enough to risk exposing the conspiracy? Question 2. How long had Derek and Amanda been planning this? The emails were dated over 4 months back. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. Question 3. What debts was Amanda referring to? She'd mentioned covering debts in her notes. What had she gotten into? My phone rang at 5:23 p.m. Derek again. This time, I answered, keeping my voice carefully neutral. Uncle Richard, where are you? You were supposed to come by this afternoon to taste the caterer's menu samples for Saturday. I forgot. Been running errands all day. The lie came easily. Picking up your gift. Actually, you and Amanda are going to love it. That's great, but we were worried. You didn't answer your phone for hours. His voice carried an edge of something I now recognized as calculation rather than concern. Are you feeling all right? You seemed confused at the board meeting last week. There it was. The setup, the careful documentation of my supposed cognitive decline. Just busy. You know how it is before a big event. I'll see you tomorrow for brunch at the ranch like we planned. The words tasted like ash, but I maintained the pleasant uncle tone he expected. After he hung up, I allowed myself 10 minutes of rage. I paced the hotel room, my hands clenched into fists, my breath coming in harsh gasps. Derek was the closest thing I'd ever had to a son. After Catherine died, he'd been my anchor, my reason to keep building the business instead of selling and retiring to the coast. Every expansion decision, every new parcel of land, had been made with the thought that someday Lawson Prairie Holdings would be his legacy. And now he wanted to steal it. Not inherit it honestly, but steal it through fraud and legal manipulation. The rage crystallized into something colder and sharper. I'd built a $47 million agricultural empire from the modest ranch my father left me. I'd survived the BSE crisis, the 2008 recession, the pandemic, countless challenges that would have destroyed weaker operations. Derek had made a fatal error if he thought his uncle would be a passive victim. I opened my laptop and began researching. Henderson and Associates specialized in elder law and estate planning. Their website featured testimonials from satisfied families who'd protected their loved ones through guardianship arrangements. The language was careful and professional, designed to make theft sound like compassion. Dr. Marlene Fessenden's credentials looked impressive on paper. Geriatric psychiatry specialist, expert witness in capacity hearings, published researcher on cognitive decline. But deeper searching revealed something else. 2 complaints filed with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta over the past 6 years, both related to questionable diagnoses in guardianship cases. Neither had resulted in formal discipline, but the pattern was clear. She was available for hire. Amanda's financial situation took longer to uncover, But business databases and court records eventually revealed the story. She'd invested heavily in a cannabis retail venture that had collapsed spectacularly 2 years ago when the oversaturated market forced dozens of Alberta shops to close. She'd been named personally in a lawsuit by investors, with damages estimated at $630,000. My nephew's wife had gambled away their future on a failed investment and now planned to steal my company to cover her debts. Sunday morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through the hotel curtains. I'd slept perhaps 2 hours, my mind too active with planning. The brunch with Derek and Amanda required careful performance. I needed to appear normal, perhaps slightly forgetful, giving them no indication I knew about their conspiracy. I drove back toward the ranch, arriving at their home at 11. Their house sat on 40 acres I'd given them as a wedding gift, a modern prairie-style home with views of the foothills. 8-year-old Olivia ran to greet me as I stepped out of my truck. "Grandpa Richard," she wrapped her arms around my waist. We weren't blood-related, but she'd called me Grandpa since she first learned to talk. "Did you bring me something?" "Always, sweetheart." I pulled a small, stuffed horse from behind my back. "This one's a palomino, just like your favorite mare." She squealed with delight and ran inside to show her mother. Watching her go, I felt the first crack in my resolve. Whatever I did about Derek and Amanda, Olivia would suffer. She was innocent in all of this, and she loved me without calculation or agenda. "Uncle Richard, come in." Derek appeared at the door, his smile practiced and warm. "Amanda's making her famous eggs, Benedict." I carried the fresh pastries I'd picked up in Canmore and accepted the coffee Derek offered. For the next hour, I played my part perfectly. I asked questions about the anniversary plans, about the guest list, about whether they needed additional financial help with the catering. I made small mistakes deliberately, calling Derek's business partner by the wrong name, asking twice about what time the party started. Each error was minor, easily dismissed as ordinary absent-mindedness. But I watched Amanda make mental notes, her eyes sharp even as she maintained her hostess smile. "Uncle Richard, we actually wanted to discuss something with you." Derek exchanged a significant glance with his wife after we finished eating. "We've been concerned about some of your recent decisions. The Sundre property purchase, for instance. You paid above market value. The Sundre property was excellent grazing land, purchased at exactly the right price based on water access and soil quality. But now, I understood what they were doing. Every business decision would be reframed as evidence of incompetence. I appreciate your concern. Maybe I am getting tired." I forced uncertainty into my voice. "The operation has gotten so large. Sometimes I think about what would happen if I couldn't manage it anymore." Amanda leaned forward with false sympathy. "That's exactly what we wanted to discuss. Have you thought about setting up a power of attorney? Just as a precaution, so Derek could help with decisions if you ever needed it?" "Not yet, but perhaps I should." I stood slowly, as if my joints ached. "Let me think about it." Long drive back to the main house. I left their home feeling contaminated by the performance. They thought they'd successfully manipulated me into considering their plan. Instead, I'd gathered confirmation of their timeline and tactics. Monday morning, I drove to the offices of Lawson Prairie Holdings for the first time since receiving the anonymous email. The headquarters occupied a renovated grain elevator in Okotoks, a testament to our roots in the Alberta agricultural tradition. 63 employees worked here, people who'd trusted me to make sound decisions for nearly 3 decades. My assistant, Margaret, looked surprised to see me. "Mr. Lawson, I thought you were taking the week off before Derek's party. Change of plans. Could you clear my calendar? I have some sensitive legal matters to handle." I paused at her desk. "And Margaret, I need you to pull every document related to company ownership structure, shareholder agreements, and succession planning." By noon, my desk was covered with incorporation papers, partnership agreements, and the succession plan I drafted 8 years ago that would transfer majority control to Derek upon my retirement. Then I called Robert Kim, the corporate attorney who'd helped me structure Lawson Prairie Holdings in 1996. Robert was 71 now, mostly retired, but he answered on the second ring. "Richard, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "I need to completely revise my estate plan, my power of attorney documents, and my business succession strategy. I need it done by Friday. And Robert, this needs to stay absolutely confidential." His pause was brief but telling. "This sounds serious. Should I know what's prompted this? Let's just say I've received concerning information about my family's intentions." We met that afternoon in his office tower in downtown Calgary. I showed him the printed PDFs, watched his expression shift from confusion to anger as he read through the evidence. "Richard, this is guardianship fraud. It's criminal. You could report this to the RCMP right now." I could, but I want something more permanent. I leaned forward in my chair. I want to ensure they can never try this again, with me or with anyone else. What I need from you is a comprehensive legal strategy that protects my assets, protects the company, and exposes exactly what they tried to do. Robert Kim smiled grimly. "Then we have a lot of work to do. Let's start by documenting your complete mental competency. We'll need current medical evaluations from multiple independent physicians, cognitive assessments, financial decision-making capacity tests, everything that will make their fraudulent claims impossible to sustain." Over the next 3 days, Robert orchestrated a comprehensive legal defense. Tuesday morning, I underwent extensive cognitive testing with 3 different specialists at the Foothills Medical Center, all of whom documented my complete mental competency. The neuropsychologist noted that my scores were above average for my age group, particularly in executive function and decision-making. Tuesday afternoon, we revised my will completely. I established a charitable foundation supporting agricultural education and youth ranching programs, which would receive 60% of my estate. The remaining 40% was divided between specific bequests to loyal employees, a scholarship fund at the University of Calgary's agriculture program, and a trust fund for Olivia that would be managed by an independent trustee until she turned 25. Derek and Amanda received nothing. The document explicitly stated that any attempt to challenge my mental competency would result in permanent disinheritance and criminal prosecution for fraud. Wednesday, I met with a forensic accountant who analyzed Amanda's financial situation in detail. The picture was worse than I'd imagined. Beyond the cannabis retail lawsuit, she'd taken out personal loans totaling $340,000, secured against their home's equity, the home I'd given them. They were drowning in debt, which explained the desperate timeline. Thursday, Robert helped me draft an affidavit documenting the conspiracy. We included copies of the emails between Derek and Dr. Fessenden, Amanda's financial spreadsheets, and evidence of the doctor's questionable professional history. Everything was notarized, dated, and prepared for legal action. Thursday afternoon, I received a visitor at my office. Sarah Chen, the daughter of my ranch foreman, knocked hesitantly on my door. She was 32, a CPA who'd helped with our books for the past 5 years. "Mr. Lawson, do you have a moment?" I gestured for her to sit. She looked nervous, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I need to tell you something." Her voice trembled slightly. "I should have come to you sooner, but I was afraid." I waited, letting the silence draw out whatever she needed to say. 3 months ago, Amanda asked me to prepare some financial projections, liquidation values for the ranch, the grain elevator, the equipment. She said it was for insurance purposes, estate planning. Sarah's eyes met mine. But then I found the emails. She left her laptop open in the office one day, and I saw the messages to that doctor in Edmonton. I saw what they were planning. "You sent the anonymous email." It wasn't a question. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "I've worked for your family since I was 22. My father has worked for you for 37 years. You paid for my university education, Mr. Lawson." When Derek and Amanda talked about liquidating everything, selling the operation to some agricultural conglomerate, she shook her head. 63 families depend on this ranch. I couldn't let them destroy that. I couldn't let them destroy you. I stood and walked around the desk, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you saved more than you know. I won't forget this. What are you going to do? What needs to be done?" Friday afternoon, as I reviewed the final documents in Robert's office, my phone rang. Derek's number appeared on the display. Uncle Richard, just confirming you'll be at our place tomorrow by 2 for photos before guests arrive at 4? I'll be there. Looking forward to celebrating with you both. After hanging up, Robert looked at me with something like pity. Richard, are you certain about tomorrow? This will be devastating for your nephew. There may be no coming back from this kind of public exposure. I've thought about nothing else for 6 days. My voice was steady, despite the ache in my chest. Derek made his choice when he decided to steal from me, rather than earn his inheritance, honestly. He needs to face consequences, and the people who work for me, the families who depend on Lawson Prairie Holdings, they need to know their futures are secure. That evening, I stood in my empty house on the main ranch property, surrounded by photographs of Derek's childhood. Pictures of teaching him to ride, to rope, to understand the land. Catherine smiled from frames on the mantel, unaware that the family we'd built together was about to shatter. I poured a whiskey, 40 Creek, Catherine's favorite, and sat in the darkness thinking about what tomorrow would bring. The anniversary party would have 47 guests. Derek's business associates, Amanda's family from Edmonton, neighbors from the ranching community, friends who'd known us for decades. They would all witness the revelation. Part of me wanted to find another way. A private confrontation that would spare Derek public humiliation. But Robert had been clear. Public exposure was the only way to ensure they couldn't simply try again later with a more carefully hidden plan. The witnesses, the documentation, the undeniable proof presented in front of people who mattered in their professional and social lives. That was the protection I needed. Saturday morning arrived too quickly. I dressed carefully in a western-cut suit and my best boots, appropriate for an anniversary celebration in Alberta ranch country. The leather-bound photo album sat in its gift box on my passenger seat as I drove toward Derek's house. I arrived at 1:45 p.m., deliberately early. Their home was already decorated with silver and white streamers, elegant flower arrangements, and a catering setup on the back deck overlooking the foothills. The Rocky Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks already dusted with early September snow. Everything looked perfect. A celebration of successful marriage and family prosperity. Uncle Richard, you're early. Derek embraced me at the door. Come help me test the sound system for the toasts later. I followed him into their great room, where a professional audio setup had been installed. Large speakers, a mixing board, a projector, and screen for displaying photographs during the speeches. Perfect. This is quite elaborate. Amanda put together a whole presentation. Derek confirmed proudly. 10 years of memories, messages from friends who couldn't make it, that kind of thing. We'll project it during dinner. Excellent. I'd like to add something too, if that's all right. I have some special materials I'd like to share. A tribute to your marriage and what family really means. Derek looked pleased. Of course, Uncle Richard. That's really thoughtful. Do you have the files on a USB drive? I have everything on my laptop. I'll connect it when the time comes. Guests began arriving at 3:30. I circulated through the growing crowd, greeting people I'd known for years. Derek's business partners from the agricultural consulting firm where he worked. Amanda's parents, who'd driven down from Edmonton. Neighbors from ranches across the foothills. Old friends, community leaders, a complete cross-section of everyone important in their lives. Olivia found me near the appetizer table, tugging on my jacket. Grandpa Richard, will you sit next to me at dinner? I knelt to her level, my heart breaking at her innocent smile. Of course, sweetheart. I'll always be here for you. By 4, 47 people filled the house and grounds. The catering staff moved efficiently with hors d'oeuvres and champagne. A guitarist played soft country music near the garden. Everything was exactly as it should be for a milestone anniversary, except for the laptop case I kept close beside me, containing evidence that would end all of this. At 5:30, Derek tapped his champagne glass for attention. The conversations gradually quieted as guests gathered in the great room. Amanda and I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate with us today, Derek began, his arm around his wife's waist. 10 years ago, we promised to build a life together, and we couldn't have done it without the love and support of family and friends. Amanda took the microphone next, her voice warm with practiced emotion. We're especially grateful to Uncle Richard, who has been like a father to Derek since he lost his own dad. You've been so generous, so supportive, always there with guidance and love." She raised her glass toward me. "To family, and to the bonds that hold us together." The guests echoed the toast. I raised my glass mechanically, tasting nothing. "Before dinner," Derek continued, "we have some special presentations. Amanda put together a photo montage, and Uncle Richard has something he'd like to share as well." I stood slowly, accepting the microphone Derek offered. "Thank you all for being here today." I looked around the room at the expectant faces. Family is everything to me. After my brother Thomas died, raising Derek became the greatest purpose of my life. I've spent the last 15 years working to ensure he'd inherit a secure future. I connected my laptop to the projector. The screen behind me illuminated with my first slide, the logo for Lawson Prairie Holdings, the company I'd built from the modest ranch my father left me. But something happened recently that made me realize family bonds aren't always what we think they are. I clicked to the next slide. The scanned legal document from Henderson and Associates appeared. Preliminary Capacity Assessment Application. Richard Thomas Lawson. The room went completely silent. Derek's face drained of color. Amanda gripped his arm, her champagne glass trembling. "This document was prepared by an elder law firm in Edmonton that my nephew and his wife consulted 4 months ago." I let the words sink in as guests leaned forward to read the projected text. "It's an application to declare me mentally incompetent and place me under guardianship, not because I'm actually incompetent, but because they want control of my assets." "Uncle Richard, what are you?" Derek tried to interrupt. "Please let me finish. Everyone here deserves to know what kind of people they're celebrating today." I advanced to the next slide. Derek's email to Dr. Fessenden appeared on screen, his words about my cognitive decline and questionable business decisions visible to everyone in the room. My nephew hired a doctor with a history of questionable diagnoses to evaluate me. He scheduled this assessment for 3 days after today's party. The plan was to have me declared incompetent, take control of the ranch and the company, and liquidate everything to cover debts his wife accumulated in a failed cannabis retail investment. Amanda made a strangled sound. Her parents stared at her in horror. Derek's business partners exchanged glances, recognizing the professional implications of fraud. I clicked through the remaining slides methodically. Amanda's financial spreadsheets showing the company's projected liquidation value, documentation of her $630,000 lawsuit, the personal loans secured against their home, Dr. Fessenden's complaint history with the College of Physicians. Every aspect of their conspiracy laid bare before 47 witnesses. The room erupted in chaos. Amanda's mother was crying. Derek's business partner, Mitchell, walked out without a word. Other guests began talking urgently amongst themselves. A celebration transformed into something ugly and inevitable. "This is insane!" Amanda shouted, her voice high and desperate. "Richard is confused. He's imagining conspiracies that don't exist." I remained calm, my voice cutting through the noise. "I anticipated you'd claim that, which is why I spent this week undergoing comprehensive cognitive evaluations with 3 independent physicians at Foothills Medical Center. I have documentation of my complete mental competency. I also have sworn affidavits, notarized testimony, and a revised will that leaves you both nothing." Derek finally found his voice. "Uncle Richard, please. We can explain. This isn't what it looks like." I looked at my nephew, seeing a stranger where my family used to be. "It's exactly what it looks like, Derek. You chose money over family. You chose to destroy me, rather than earn your inheritance, honestly. You were willing to put me in a care facility, sell everything I've built, scatter 63 families who depend on this operation, all to cover debts your wife created." I disconnected my laptop and picked up my briefcase. The guests parted as I walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Amanda sobbing, Derek trying to explain to his horrified business partners. At the door, I paused and turned back. "One more thing. I've established a trust fund for Olivia. She'll receive her inheritance when she turns 25, managed by an independent trustee that neither of you can access or influence. At least one member of this family will benefit from what I've built." I walked out into the September evening, leaving behind the wreckage of my nephew's anniversary party and the ruins of our relationship. The drive back to the main ranch house took 20 minutes through the foothills. The mountains glowed pink in the setting sun, but I kept the radio off, driving in silence. Robert Kim called as I pulled into my driveway. "Richard, it's done. How did it go?" Everyone knows what they tried to do. The evidence is witnessed by 47 people who matter in their professional and social lives. There's no recovering from this. Good. I'll file the supporting documents with the court on Monday morning. If they try to pursue guardianship proceedings anyway, we'll have them charged with fraud. Thank you, Robert, for everything. Inside my empty house, I poured another whiskey and sat in Catherine's chair. The house felt larger than usual, echoing with absence. My phone buzzed with messages throughout the evening. Derek calling repeatedly, his voicemails progressing from angry to pleading to desperate. Amanda's texts claiming I'd misunderstood everything, that they only wanted to help. I deleted them all without responding. At midnight, headlights swept across my windows. Through the curtains, I saw Derek's truck pull into the driveway. He stumbled out and stood on my porch, his face visible in the motion sensor light, ravaged by tears and something like shock. I opened the door but didn't invite him inside. "Uncle Richard, please. We made a mistake. Amanda was desperate about the debts, and I don't know what I thought, but we never would have actually gone through with it. We just needed help. We should have asked you. You hired a doctor known for fraudulent diagnoses. You prepared legal documents. You had a timeline. You calculated the liquidation value of everything I've built." I kept my voice flat. "That's not thinking about asking for help, Derek. That's executing a plan to steal from me. I'm your nephew. I'm like your son. Doesn't that mean anything?" It meant everything. The words caught in my throat, which is why this hurts more than any business failure ever could. I would have given you anything, Derek. If you'd come to me about Amanda's debts, I would have helped. I would have found a way. But you didn't trust me enough to ask. You decided to take instead. Uncle Richard, please. You chose to betray that relationship. Now you live with the consequences. I closed the door gently, but firmly. Through the wood, I could hear him crying. The sound of my nephew reduced to helpless sobs on my porch. The boy I'd taught to ride, to work cattle, to understand the land. Part of me wanted to relent, to find some path toward forgiveness. But Robert's words echoed in my mind. Public exposure was the only protection. If I showed weakness now, they might try again, more carefully hidden next time. Better a clean break, devastating and complete, than years of wondering if my own family was plotting against me. 3 weeks later, I sat in Robert's office, reviewing the final legal documents. The new will was executed, the charitable foundation established, Olivia's trust secured beyond her parents' reach. Lawson Prairie Holdings' ownership structure had been revised with enhanced protections against any hostile actions. "You've protected yourself completely," Robert said, closing the file folder. "Derek and Amanda can't touch your assets now, not through guardianship fraud or any other means." I nodded, feeling no satisfaction. "Have you heard anything from them?" Derek's consulting firm asked him to resign. They couldn't retain someone implicated in elder fraud, even without criminal charges. Robert paused. "Amanda's being sued by the personal loan companies now. They're selling the house I'd given them as a wedding gift. And Olivia? Amanda's parents took her to Edmonton temporarily. She's enrolled in school there while her parents sort out their situation. Their lives destroyed, just as they'd tried to destroy mine. The symmetry was perfect and hollow. Sarah Chen stopped by my office the following week. She'd been promoted to chief financial officer, a position that had never existed before, but that she'd more than earned. "Mr. Lawson, I wanted to thank you for believing me, for not being angry that I sent that email anonymously instead of coming to you directly. You were protecting yourself. And you were protecting this company and everyone who works here." I gestured toward the window, overlooking the ranch operations. 63 families kept their livelihoods because of what you did. That took courage. She nodded, still looking uncertain. "Do you ever regret it? How it all happened?" I thought about the question for a long moment. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Derek became someone I don't recognize. I regret that an 8-year-old girl lost her family because of adult greed and desperation. I turned back to face her. But I don't regret protecting what generations of Lawsons have built. I don't regret ensuring that this operation will continue for decades, employing families and contributing to Alberta's agricultural heritage. I drive past Derek and Amanda's house sometimes, though I'm not sure why. The sold sign came down last month. New owners are moving in, a young family from Calgary looking for space to raise their children. They don't know the history of those walls, the betrayal that unfolded inside them. Olivia's trust fund grows quietly in managed investments. In 17 years, she'll receive enough money to start her adult life with security and options. I've written her a letter explaining what her parents tried to do and why I made the choices I did. Maybe she'll understand. Maybe she'll hate me for destroying her family's stability. I've tried to write that letter a dozen times, trying to explain that her parents aren't monsters, just desperate people who made monstrous choices. That addiction to lifestyle and fear of failure can corrupt even the people we love. That I would have helped them if they'd only asked. Lawson Prairie Holdings continues successfully. I've begun training new leadership, younger agricultural professionals who remind me of myself 40 years ago. People who understand that stewardship means building something lasting, not extracting maximum value and moving on. Eventually, the company will pass to them, to people who earned it rather than tried to steal it. Late at night, when the ranch house is particularly quiet, I sometimes wonder if there was another way. Could I have confronted Derek privately, given him a chance to stop before I executed my own plan? Could mercy have achieved what vengeance did? But then I remember Dr. Fessenden's emails, Amanda's spreadsheets calculating my worth down to the last acre, Derek's casual discussion of my supposed incompetence with business partners and family friends. They weren't considering stealing from me, they were actively doing it. The documents were prepared, the doctor retained, the timeline set. The only thing that stopped them was being caught. The mountains outside my window catch the last light of another September sunset, the peaks turning gold, then purple, then dark. Somewhere in Edmonton, my great-niece is doing homework, unaware of the trust fund growing in her name, and the letter waiting to explain everything when she's old enough to understand. I saved myself from destruction. I protected everything I've built, everything my father and grandfather built before me. I ensured that 63 families will continue to have stable employment for years to come. I guaranteed that the Lawson legacy in Alberta agriculture will endure. Those are victories worth acknowledging. The victories just feel exactly as empty as I expected. If you found meaning in this story, please like this video and subscribe to Shattered Vengeance. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever discovered a family member's betrayal? How did you handle it? Your stories matter to us. To watch the next story, click the video on the left.